This is BBN Bible-Based Network, a service of Turning Point Radio Bahamas.
And just stay right now, get your mind off the clock. I'm going to preach the truth today. You got a schedule? Go. But today I preach till I'm done, okay? And so, before I get into my sermon, let's hear
the McKinney Broadcasting Network.
You continue to have church on a Sunday, when in fact I think I heard you said before that you observe the Sabbath. Well, how is it?
That's your question?
That you're having church on a Sunday when you ought to be observing one of the 10 Commandments, which is the Sabbath.
Okay, I appreciate your call.
Thank you.
I'll let Dr. Munroe answer you.
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you very much for the question. And this is really a common question that comes up all the time. First of all, I believe that all of us should Shabbat. I go to Israel very often, and I understand the gravity of that. In other words, no man should work 6 days a week and kill himself. I think the essence of Shabbat means that you need to rest.
Right.
And anyone who has any wisdom know that they should do that. Secondly, I personally do that. I take a day off and I rest. And that is very important for my health and also my spiritual sensibilities. Worshipping on a day or not worshipping on a day, to me, is not the issue. The issue is that we need to rest.
Yes.
And so that's as far as I see that. I think this is why Jesus himself became concerned when they made the day more important than the man, and they lost the actual essence of the purpose for the day, which was to rest. And that's when he told them very clearly, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Yes. He was trying to correct the misconception that the day has become a prison rather than a day of freedom.
Right.
And so I just want to caution all of us. I would hate to separate myself from my brethren because of our perception of what to me is a principle, and not a prison.
Yeah.
And so I'm a free man. I teach our people they need to rest 1 day a week. Not everyone is capable of doing it on a certain day. People work different ways, different times.
You said it's the principle.
Rest. It's the principle, exactly. Yeah. And I think this is my position. I appreciate his position. I hope you respect mine.
Yes.
And that's my position.
Absolutely. But anyway, I'm happy that you answered it the way that you did, because it's a very important answer and to a very important question. Don, how are you?
I'm great, Steve. H. Don King here. Brother Myles Munroe, how are you, sir?
Hello, Don. I'm doing excellent.
There are several things in listening to the show, Steve. I hardly call in.
Right.
But I heard the gentleman about the Sabbath. It was, even though we are both Catholic, Steve.
Yes.
The Constantine the First made that decree that he wanted to create a political connection between the pagans and the Christians when he made the decree that created Sunday. And our Catholic Church followed afterwards. And so the Sabbath is not Sunday. Even though I'm a Catholic, I celebrate it on a Saturday, and it's important to keep the correct date. We cannot discount it, notwithstanding our views and our personal opinion on it. It is not left to our personal opinion, it's what God has ordained.
We appreciate the fact that you participated. Thank you so much for your participation.
Of course, I appreciate the call. And I do want to just make sure you understand that I do. My wife and I take Saturday as our Shabbat, and we rest. Saturday's a day. We worship on Sundays as a corporate body, but we Shabbat on Saturday. Secondly, we've been dealing with scriptures and so forth. I think these kind of forums are not the best place to get into those issues, and that's why I would not even want to, respond to that. And I think it's not fair either, because again, there's so many people who are listening to us who don't understand. If he and I get to talking about theological issues, it becomes really sidetracked.
But what are you going to do with that? Because a lot of your friends and your neighbors heard that. Some of you listened to it and said, oh, that sounds pretty good. Now keep in mind, there wouldn't be an issue with me about a day if God hadn't made it an issue. The commandment says, remember the Sabbath day, not the Sabbath eon, not the Sabbath period, not the Sabbath dispensation, the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. And you should understand, if you're a Sabbath keeper, that is, seventh-day Sabbath keeper, that you stand not just on solid biblical footing, but you stand on the backs of history. There is no question in the mind of learned historians. There is no question in the mind of learned religionists. There is no question in the mind of studied theologians. Which day is the Sabbath? The seventh day, Saturday, is the Sabbath. And anyone who is a Protestant who observes the first day of the week has a problem. And the problem is found in the Catholic Catechism. Let's read. Question: which is the Sabbath day? Saturday is the Sabbath day. Now this is from the Catechism. Notice the blatant honesty. Continuing. Read. Why do we observe Sunday instead of Saturday? This is from the Catechism. Read. We observe Sunday instead of Saturday because the Catholic Church transferred the solemnity from Saturday to Sunday. Now, if you studied history, you know that this happened around 431 A.D. There were no Protestants then. So Protestants cannot claim that they have found a biblical Sabbath in Sunday. Because 1100 years before there was a Protestant, it was already clear in history that it was done by the Catholic Church. Now, what was their basis for doing it? Let's go to the next statement. This is from the Catechism. Let's read. Question: have you any other way of proving that the Catholic Church has power to institute festivals of precept? In the Catechism, someone is questioning the Catholic Church's right to institute festivals and feast days. Their answer for their proof is, continuing, read, had she not such power, she could not have done that in which all modern religionists agree with her. The church is saying, we did something, and proof that we have the power to do it is that all modern religionists follow us. What did they do? Read, she could not have substituted the observance of Sunday, the first day of the week, for the observance of Saturday, the seventh day, a change for which there is no scriptural authority.
Notice Isaiah 58 and verse 12. Those from among you shall build the old waste places. You shall raise up the foundations of many generations, and you shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of streets to dwell in. And then she explains in Isaiah what repairing the breach means. You see, the law of God in the Bible is compared with a wall. And a breach has been made in the wall. That breach is the Sabbath commandment that's been changed. There's a hole in the wall. And God's people who have been revived, who share the light of God's glory, are to repair that breach.
Testimonies, Volume 1, page 224, paragraph 1. Ellen White writes, the name Seventh-day Adventist carries the true features of our faith in front and will rebuke the inquiring mind. Like an arrow from the Lord's quiver, it will wound the transgressors of God's law and will lead to repentance toward God and faith in Jesus Christ. Listen to me, she says, the very name convicts. Here is the line of distinction between the worshipers of God and those who worship the beast and receive his image. The name, Medical Ministry, page 49, paragraph 4. Christ was a Seventh-day Adventist to all intents and purposes. Somebody say something. Christ was a Seventh-day Adventist to all intents and purposes. That's what the prophet says. You have been called to carry a name that God approved. And when you do not understand that, along with all the other reasons for which God called you and me, then you are simply someone who does not work on Saturday. You're not a Seventh-day Adventist.
Bringing the world closer through the spoken word. This is BBN, home of Turning Point Radio Bahamas, 102.3 FM.